but only.
Alright, so new week, and this week I'm going to be going over my squat form. So I'm going to show the videos of my squats from this week, and I'll break it down and give you some cues to use in your own mind to set up properly. And then I also have a bar here at the apartment that I can use to show you just some different things to keep in mind when you're going through your setup and going through the form of the squat. So get after it. So first things first, I want to say, when you're setting up, you need to start thinking about it either from the bottom up or from the top down. So I like to think about starting my setup from the bottom up. So I start with my feet first, get my feet set, and then from there think about my knees and hips, what they're doing, and then after that I think about my back, keeping my back tight, and then the last thing is going to be my arms and hands and wrists. And I'm going to show you starting off with the feet. So you want to think about keeping your feet about shoulder width apart, and you want to think about having your toes slightly pointed out and 3 solid points of contact. What I mean by the 3 points of contact is I'll show on my other foot. You have the front pad of your foot, like the ball of your foot. So you have those first 2 parts, the left side and right side of the front of your foot, and then your heel. So with that whole foot planted, you have 3 solid points of contact on the ground. So you always want to keep your entire foot planted. Don't rock back and forth once you're in there doing the squats. Alright, and next we're going to go through the knees and hips. So you want to think about when you're descending into the squat, your knees and hips are going to break at about the same time. And then once you hit at about 90 degrees or below that, that's what depth is. And then I'll show from the front side. And I want you to think about pushing your knees out to the sides, kind of, to help you sit down into the squat better. And make sure you hit depth. And then next is going to be your back. So for a high bar squat, the bar sits up on your chest, but we're doing a low bar, so it's going to sit down on the delts. And the main thing you want to think about is keeping your upper back tight. You want a nice shelf for that bar to sit on. You want it to sit on there nice and tight. And you want to think about keeping your arms in the same line as your torso. You don't want them to wing up like that. You want them to keep them down nice and tight. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is how I hold my hands on the bar. So I do kind of a 3-finger grip that Charlie taught me. It works pretty well for relieving wrist pain. So you want to keep the pinky tucked under, wrap the top 3 over, and then the thumb wraps around. So it looks kind of weird, but once you use it in the squat, you'll get used to it, and it's kind of a little easier on your wrists. So that's why I like it. And then we're going to go through and show you me actually squatting in the gym. So this is my heavy single. So get my feet set, break at the hips and knees, come down, and back up. And then this is my working set. And I'm going to take a couple screenshots to show you a couple other things I didn't talk about earlier. So get under the bar, get set, pull it out, step, get my feet set, and then descend into the squat. And then on the screenshots I want to show you, so once I'm at depth, there's a couple things you want to think about: having your torso angle correct, so your back and legs get that nice angle, so you're not like hunched over or overextended with your back. And then also with your legs, a lot of people are worried about their knees going over their toes. My knees go over my toes because I have long femur, so don't worry about that. It's nothing as bad is going to happen. Some people have better mobility, some people have different size femurs. Some people's knees go over, some people's knees don't go over, but don't worry about it if your knees go over your toes. And then last thing is making sure when you hit depth that hip joint and the knee are at least parallel, or maybe the hips are slightly lower, and that's where you've hit depth. And then I'm going to show you the rest of my set and we'll go through it in slow motion. So on the descent, keeping that back tight, and you see my elbows stay in line with my torso when I'm down at the bottom. They do come up a little bit at the top, but once I'm actually squatting, they're in line with my torso. And I might have cut some of these reps a little high. Maybe the camera angle, because the camera is down below, so it might be off a little bit, but I could have gone a little lower. And there you have it. Well, hopefully you guys like that demonstration and maybe you learned something from it. I'm not sure why, but I forgot to talk about bracing in the squat. That is using your breath to keep your core stable in the squat. So the way I was taught, or like the analogy I was given, is you think about it like a soda can. So if you have a brand new soda can and it's full, you can stand on it and it's going to be strong, but an empty soda can, if you try to stand on it, it's going to squish. So it's the same sort of principle. Take in a deep breath into your gut, brace really hard with your core, almost like pretend like you're about to get punched in the gut, and then go down to the squat and come back up, take your next breath, brace hard, down, back up, and that'll help you lift heavier weight. It's a little bit harder to do when you're doing higher reps, so you got to be able to, with lighter weight and higher reps, you got to be able to work with your breath. It's a little more difficult, but when you're working with heavy weight for low reps, you really want to brace hard and focus on getting that deep breath. Take your time and make sure your core is stable so you don't get crushed by the weight. Last two things I want to say is, number one, obviously this is how I squat. This is the form that works best for my body mechanics with the low bar squat, so it might not work for whoever is watching this. Everyone's different, so you got to find out what works best for you and what feels most comfortable. And then the last thing is, if you want to improve your squat, obviously you have to squat a lot, so I'd say at least 2 or 3 times a week, have it programmed in, and then throw in some variations. So do your regular squats 1 to 2 times per week, and then the last time you do squats and at the end of the week do a variation. So that could be anything like box squat, pause squats, tempo squats. That's about all I can think about right now. I'm sure there's more. But any variation that's going to help you learn the form better. And personally, my favorite is pause squats. I just feel like they help me get in my head about keeping stable, keeping tight, and then it helps me be more comfortable in a regular squat because I'm used to pausing at the bottom. So it just makes it feel a lot more comfortable and stable. But that's just me. Whatever variation helps you with your form, do that. Yeah, and that's about all I got. Next week I'll go over deadlifts, how I deadlift, and hopefully that can help. But yeah, see you next time.